Sometimes hearing the audio of a person's final moments is far more haunting than anything you could see on camera. There is nothing more emotionally charged than hearing a person's voice while they're experiencing something very raw and real. Here are 7 cases where death was caught on audio. Many of these full audios are also available on my channel if you are interested. Viewer discretion advised. What makes this especially chilling is right before Flight 1141 took off, the crew and flight attendants had a casual conversation about what they would say if they were flying the plane and it were to crash. Once cleared, the plane took off down the runway with no issue, but once it became airborne, the plane began an uncontrollable rolling motion. The tail and right wing struck the runway. Once beyond the airstrip, the wings smashed into a localizer antenna, which caused the plane to engulf in flames and begin disintegrating. The plane was in the air for 22 seconds before making impact, and the entire ordeal was recorded on the black box. In total, 14 people died, including 2 of those flight attendants, as a result of the fire. In 1967, Soviet cosmonaut Vladimir Komarov knew that he was going to die before he even launched into orbit. His vessel was poorly constructed. A pre-flight check revealed dozens of issues that would require time to fix. The only reason that he agreed to go was because his dear friend was the backup pilot. If he refused to launch, his friend would go in his place and die as a result. He wasn't happy about the situation, so he made one single request ahead of the trip: to be granted an open casket funeral, so the higher-ups had no choice but to face the consequences of their decisions. Unfortunately, he was right. As soon as he began orbiting Earth, one thing after the next went wrong. His antenna malfunctioned, navigation was futile, and the parachute failed. He went crashing into the ground, starting at a height of 4.5 miles. His body completely burned up, leaving a shriveled, charred pile. His open casket was a disturbing sight. U.S. intelligence intercepted his final transmission, where he sounds both furious and panicked as he unleashed his rage and anguish in his last words. Take a listen. On August 12, 1984, Alpha Otis Stevens was put to death by electric chair, only something went terribly wrong. In a twist, the state of Georgia had made a secret audio recording of the process that was released years later. The state has never offered a reason as to how things went so wrong. According to them, everything was in working order. Yet Stevens remained alive, struggling and drawing in deep labored breaths after the first 2 minutes of electrical volts were administered. The whole process had to be repeated. Also, keep in mind that people typically cannot scream while being electrocuted. That doesn't mean that they aren't aware or feeling the pain.
The execution now has begun. There was one small jerk from the condemned at the time the execution was initiated. He is sitting very still now, and we are also now into the second phase of the execution. We're now into the third phase of the execution. No movement from the condemned. No activity or no movement from the witnesses. He appears to be relaxing a little bit more now. There's 60 seconds remaining on the third phase of the execution. There is a slight movement from the condemned's head. He seems to be moving his head from side to side slightly. Commissioner?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
There is some slight movement. He's still moving his head slightly. The only thing we can do is continue until the physicians can check him after the lapse time has expired. Commissioner?
Yes.
Doctors verify that he is still alive.
Repeat the execution.
Very well.
On Halloween 1979, Western Airlines Flight 2605 was attempting to land in Mexico City. It was the early morning, still dark, and ground fog was thick, making visibility of the runway difficult. Making things even trickier was the fact that one runway was shut down for maintenance and a language barrier created confusion. By the time the pilots realized that they were about to land on the wrong closed runway, it was too late. They desperately tried to get back up in the air but struck a dump truck. This killed the operator of the truck and kicked up huge clouds of debris. It was at this point that panic and screams erupted from the cockpit. The plane made one final impact into a building, killing majority of the occupants on board. Debbie Stevens placed the following 911 call because her car was swept away by flash flooding while out delivering papers.
Debbie Stevens, please help me. I don't want to die.
You're not going to die. Hold on for a minute.
Well, I'm scared. I'm sorry. I didn't know the water. I couldn't see the water when I came up on it, man. It just all of a sudden hit me. How long is it going to be, man? My son's going to die, and I can't charge it.
A lot of people have called in on you, so I don't think that nobody's just sitting there. They actually called in, but they're not going to get themselves in danger because you put yourself in danger.
I'm scared. I've never had anything like this happen to me before.
Well, this will teach you next time. Don't drive in the water.
Couldn't see it, ma'am. I'm sorry, or I wouldn't have.
I don't see how you didn't see it. You had to go right over it. So, okay, then I can cancel it. They got the Thank you.
Oh my God, ma'am.
Yes.
On January 13, 1982, Air Florida Flight 90 took off from Washington International Airport, but departure was anything but smooth. It was well below freezing outside, and thick, heavy snow was coming down in sheets. The runway was slick, and the captains had a hard time getting traction. Once the plane became airborne, the terror in passengers' hearts didn't lift. One man, who was a private pilot, could feel that they were doomed and instructed other passengers to assume a crash position. He wasn't wrong. The plane was only in the air for 30 seconds before crashing into the 14th Street Bridge, destroying a huge stretch of the structure before diving into the icy river, killing 74 people. On January 26, 1967, 3 crew members were conducting a launch rehearsal at Cape Kennedy Air Force Station Launch Complex. The launch was scheduled the following month. The simulation was needed to determine whether or not the spacecraft would operate normally. Because the spacecraft wasn't loaded with fuel, it wasn't considered to be a dangerous exercise. At 1 p.m., the command pilot Gus Grissom, senior pilot Edward White II, and pilot Roger Chaffee entered the command module in their pressure suits. Immediately, Gus noticed a strange smell circulating through his suit, which he compared to sour buttermilk. The crew was going through their checklist when a violent fire broke out and the men's microphones caught it all. Take a listen.